You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Guess what, guys? Syracuse football, even without Trebor Pena, and yes, it's a tough loss, they still have enough weapons to where there is no excuse for this offense not to be efficient against Pitt tomorrow night. Period. All right? They got enough talent that they could still beat this Pitt team without Trebor Pena. Not having Trebor Pena, again, I've broken it down. It sucks. It could hurt their short passing game a little bit. They are still without Zeed Haynes. Zeed Haynes is out with a family issue, and we just hope everything is okay in that regard, but he still hasn't played either. So they're down two of their top three wide receivers at the beginning of the season, right? When they took the field against Ohio, their top three wide receivers were Zeed Haynes, Umari Hatcher, and Trebor Pena. Only Umari Hatcher is left of those three for tomorrow night against Pitt. But there are no excuses for this offense not to succeed. They have enough star power and enough depth to get it done. All right? Even if they don't get contributions from Emanuel Ross or Justus Ross-Simmons, and another guy I would like to throw in that hat is Daryl Gill. And the reason why I didn't mention Daryl Gill, because he's not necessarily an under-the-radar guy, right? He's actually seen some playing time. He's had some nice moments. So he's a good depth piece. We know what Daryl Gill is, and that's why I wanted to mention Emanuel Ross and Justus Ross-Simmons, right? But even if you don't get contributions from those three tomorrow night, you got plenty of star power. This is unlike any other year for a bit for Syracuse football. They got enough weapons on this offense. They can get it done even without Trebor Pena. Even without Zeed Haynes. They can do it, right? Number one, I don't know about you guys, but let us not forget that Syracuse football has an All-American tight end on their roster in Oronde Gadsden. Aside from a couple of down games against Stanford, against Holy Cross, right? He had a couple of down games where he had like 3 catches in a 2-game span there. I would say he's lived up to expectations as an All-American caliber tight end this season, right? Is that fair to say? So you got an All-American tight end. That's a great start. That's a good start with the amount of weapons you got on your offense, an All-American. Number 2, Syracuse football has another breakout wide receiver aside from Trebor Pena, right? And that is Georgia transfer Jackson Meeks. Jackson Meeks has thrived as the number 1 outside receiver for Syracuse football since taking over, I believe, in the Stanford game. That's when he was officially given the role because Zeed Haynes was ruled out for that one. In the last 3 games for Jackson Meeks, he has caught at least 8 passes in each of them, has 2 100-yard games. He has a touchdown in all 3 games, and one of those touchdowns was the game-tying catch against UNLV at the end of regulation. He's got more than 3 times the amount of receiving yards this season as he had in 3 years at Georgia. Jackson Meeks has also been a breakout wide receiver for Syracuse football, and you still got him ready to go. And Fran Brown said they are a better football team with Jackson Meeks on the roster. And he's going to play against Pitt tomorrow night. So, you got Oronde Gadsden. You got Jackson Meeks. 2 of the better players, 2 of the better pass catchers in the ACC, if not the country. I would say already you're at enough weapons. LeQuint Allen, how about him? He's one of the best receiving backs in the conference, if not the country. Again, on pace for over 60 catches this year, and last year he had 38 of them. An all-purpose back like LeQuint Allen. And you got his backup Yassine Willis, right? You got backup tight end Dan Villari. You got enough star power, and you got enough depth pieces to where does a loss of Trebor Pena hurt Syracuse? It does. But should it really influence the result of the game tomorrow night against Pitt? No. There are no excuses for this offense not to get it done against Pitt. They have enough star power. They have enough depth. They can still have a very, very good offensive night against a Pitt defense that is not exactly the Legion of Boom. All right. They do not have the Legion of Boom secondary back there. That's no disrespect to Pitt. All right. But their strength is their pass rush. That's their strength. They got 18 sacks in 6 games. That's an average of 3 per game. And they had 6 of them against Cal. They can rush the passer really well, but their secondary, all right, they got a good safety in McMillan. I get it. Syracuse has gone up against talented safeties and talented corners the first 6 games of the year. To me, there is no excuse for Syracuse not to get it done tomorrow night against Pitt. If you want to be a contender, if you want to be one of the premier teams in the ACC, you got to be able to overcome injuries like this. You got to be able to overcome an injury like this. We can acknowledge that it's a tough loss. We can acknowledge where it specifically could hurt Syracuse, the short passing game. But we can also keep in mind that if you want to be a contender, you got to be able to overcome injuries sometimes to even star players. And you got to see what your depth is really made of. You got to see what your other stars are really made of. And we're going to find out tomorrow night just how deep this Syracuse receiving core has been. Because I have said for weeks on this podcast, I think they got a ton of weapons. They got a lot to choose from. And on any given play, you don't necessarily know where the ball is going. But it's not necessarily a bad thing because they're ultra talented with their pass catcher. They got a ton of them. All right. This is not influencing my prediction on the game. I think Syracuse is going to win 34-31. Yep, that's right. I am making my prediction right now here on this podcast. I think that they can still get it done without Trebor Pena. Leave a comment in the comment section below how you think the loss of Trebor Pena impacts Syracuse tomorrow night. Do you still think they can get it done against Pitt, or do you think they are dead in the water? In my opinion, they can still get it done because you know what? You got an All-American tight end, you got an all-conference caliber wide receiver, and you got an all-conference caliber running back. How about that? I think they got enough to get it done tomorrow night against Pitt.